Hey everyone, welcome to a new edition of the Marvin Byrd Show. I'm your host, Marvin Byrd. Here we believe that teachers are leaders, and as a result, we equip teachers with the skills and information they need in order to lead their students to success. Today, I want to talk to you about struggling. For how many of you out there is it just really difficult, just really difficult to watch your students struggle? I know it is. Yeah, it's very challenging. And for some of you, it may be just so difficult that you just feel this urge to bail them out. And some of you give in to that urge. Now, I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to judge you. We're family. But obviously, there is something good that comes out of students struggling. As difficult to watch as it may be for us, students need to struggle because struggling can be productive. Students can learn from struggling. And so in this episode, what I want to do is I want to help you. I'm going to give you 3 tips to help you guide and lead students through a struggle so that they struggle well. And so it reminds me of my journey in learning how to play the guitar. I've had my guitar for about maybe 6 years, and there's been a bunch of starts and stops along the way. And so this year I'm really getting into it. I've got a musician subscription, and something about the app that it just motivates me to keep coming back. 10 minutes every day, 10 minutes, 10 minutes every day, 10 minutes more, 10 minutes more each and every day. And I'll tell you, when I was starting out, and even sometimes now, it's just like, it's a little frustrating, when when you just don't have the timing down, when you're trying to play with that song. And then there's the hurt fingers, like, oh my gosh, the tips of my fingers, they sting so bad. So there's all this stuff going on, fingers hurt, missing the timing, and it's frustrating, and it can be defeating because as the song is moving and I'm just not, my fingers aren't there yet. I didn't get there. I was struggling. But because I'm coming back for more, 10 minutes more, 10 minutes more the next day, 10 minutes more the day after that, now my struggling is productive because I'm getting those reps in. And now I can see my progress. And it feels good when you're able to play along with popular songs. So we're getting closer. And one of the things that I'm telling students this week, I'm delivering this message to students this week over on my Vision Chasers YouTube channel. If you want to check that out for some short motivational messages for students, one of the things that I'm telling them this week is this: how well you struggle today determines your success of tomorrow. Once again, how well you struggle today determines the level of your success tomorrow. And, struggling well, that doesn't come easy. It doesn't come easy. It comes with experience. You've got some students who struggle well because they just learned along the way, and they have the support. That's also an aspect of it as well. And that's where you come in as a leader. You see some students who don't struggle well, who tend to avoid struggle, and they get frustrated. Perhaps they've had some really bad experiences in terms of a lack of support. And when they don't have that support, of course, students are going to want to shy away from struggling. So I want to share this. I want to share this with you. This is this right here. I'm so proud. This is my daughter put this together. My beautiful daughter put this Lego set together. Now, let me tell you something about me and Legos. Not a really big fan. Okay. And I remember when we first started to bring Legos in the house, I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, here we go. Because, you know, Legos is on that short list of mine that I don't want my kids to have. I don't want in this house. And it's Legos. Number the top of that list is Play-Doh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, how many people out there have kids in with Play-Doh and just it comes out of the container, but it never all fully goes back in. You'll find it in the carpet, it'll be on the floor, it'll be in your car, it'll be all over the place, in the couch, all over the place. But look at this right here. At first, my daughter, she struggled. She struggled with putting these things together, and then, she just kept at it. And then one day, I look over and I see her. She's studying this book. She's studying this book, and she's going through, and she's actually problem solving. She's not throwing fits like she used to. She used to in the early stages of it. She just used to throw fits because it didn't work, and I would I would do my best. I'm really good with the teenagers. I work at a high school. I'm good with the teenagers, but my daughter's 6 years old, and so that's just a little bit different. And I'm trying to get her to, okay, honey, how do you problem solve? What do you do? Let's reverse engineer. And then it's just like, but anyways, I, you know, I'd like to give myself some credit. Perhaps I was able to reach her and help her to see that the answer lied within her. And so she started to just study the book, look at it, and then she was able to problem solve on her own. So she would come to me and say, "Hey daddy, can you take this piece off because I don't think it fits." When she started doing that, I was just amazed. I was so proud of my daughter because throughout her struggles, she learned that she had the answers. She had the answers. The answers lied within her mindset, within her willingness to problem solve. And she put this wonderful ice cream truck together. I'm so proud of her. So the definition of struggle is this. It is just really interesting. The definition of struggle is to proceed with difficulty or with great effort. To proceed with difficulty or with great effort. That says it all. Everybody, everybody through life, you need to experience a level of struggle. You need to struggle. You need to know what that feels like. And it's a guarantee. It's a guarantee. We all know that this world isn't perfect. Life is not easy. So our students, your students, they need to know how to problem solve. And definitely, perhaps you're going to have to fix some things that were broken from their past for sure, but it's imperative. It's imperative that all students understand how to how to work themselves through a moment of struggling so that struggle is productive for them. So I want to share with you these three tips to help you work with your students and guide them through a struggle, because definitely I get it. I understand that it's something that I still struggle with in terms of knowing when to step in, when to step in and help the student because they legitimately need help, or when to push them, or when to push them to do a little bit more. You can do this. You've got it in within you to do it. You can do it. And granted, it can be very difficult knowing how to read every situation with 100% accuracy. I'm certain of that, right? Sometimes you may push a student when you should be pulling back because they're reaching that point of frustration. And sometimes you should push a student because they're not giving you 100% effort. They're not giving you the very best that they got. So I want to get into these 3 tips that I have for you to help guide students through a struggle. But before I do that, I want to share with you this right here. Byrdlinks.com. Byrdlinks.com. This is your one-stop shop for education news, the latest and trending education news, all in one place, as you see here. Byrdlinks.com. Byrdlinks.com. I'm asking you that you make this a part of your daily routine. Check out this site. As you can see here with a featured story, our brothers and sisters in Chicago, they are going to be heading back to the classroom because they've got some things, the things that they wanted have been promised to them. And so they feel comfortable enough. At least they've reached an agreement to go back to school. So we'll be watching that. And then we have other top stories of the day. And so I encourage you to please check that out. Make that a part of your daily routine. Once again, that's byrdlinks.com. All right, here we go. Number one, if you want to guide students through a struggle so that ultimately that struggle is a productive struggle, here's the number one thing that I'm suggesting that you do. You need to encourage struggling, and you need to celebrate it. Encourage it and celebrate it. Yes, you're struggling, and that's a good thing. Now, for sure, it's not going to sound normal to your students. It's going to seem a little awkward, but struggling, it's important. Remember what the definition I gave you. It's to proceed with difficulty or with great effort. You know, that's life. There are things that we all need to learn that we don't yet know. And sometimes through these, as we grow, we experience a little bit of pain. And, you know, and sometimes that pain that involves a level of struggling, and it's okay. So that's why I'm suggesting that you celebrate it. Celebrate it, because sometimes for some students, you're having to, as I said before, you're having to break down walls that have been put up, that students, it's a learned behavior that students just put it up. I'm not gonna experience any failure. I'm not gonna struggle because I remember what happened that last time. So there's some work that you're going to have to do. You see, it's the little things you have to celebrate. There's a Chinese proverb. It goes like this: the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And that one step is worth celebrating. Go over the top. If a student takes that one step, it's the little things. And, you know, even to begin knowing that, you know, a struggle is imminent, that's a marvelous thing. It's a wonderful thing, and it should be celebrated. So I don't care however you do it, you know, you got to be your authentic self. But as the architect of your environment in the classroom, make it known that in this classroom, we celebrate it. We celebrate it when students experience struggle, because we know that it's just for a moment. It's just for a moment. Once you initiate problem solving, you're going to get through it, and you're going to be better on the other end of it. That's the attitude. That's the mindset you're trying to bring into the classroom and help the students adopt. And yes, let me address the elephant in the room. Grades can be an elephant in the room, because with grades, there is that tension. There is that tension. You know, I think it's because, you know, the student sees what ultimately they want is the grade when it should be the learning. So the grade is over here, and they realize that they're right here, And when they see that, oh, I'm gonna have to struggle to get where I wanna be right here, I just like I don't want to do that. And so you are going to have to work hard in order to celebrate those small things, those things that students do that don't necessarily, get graded, such as "Hey, you came to class on time. Thank you." Those things such as, "Hey, you gave me 7 minutes of going through those note cards last night. Thank you so much. I appreciate that." Or you asked two questions during class. Yes, that's wonderful. Even though you're struggling, you're going to get through it and you're going to be better because you're doing these things. And when you do this, you're empowering students because you're putting emphasis on the decisions that they're making. And you're showing them that, hey, if you want to get through a struggle, you want to get through a situation, start making good decisions. Consistently make good decisions because you're going to end up on the other side. Celebrate that. Celebrate that because they're going to grow, they're going to be better on the other end of it. So put that message out there consistently and let it be known that it applies to everyone. Everyone's in the same boat. Everyone's going to experience struggle at some point, but it's something to celebrate because something positive is going to come on the other side of it. And the I think the biggest thing for a lot of students is when they go through that struggle and they have a good experience because of your leadership and guiding them through it. What it does is it gives them that moment. They have that experience, they have that history to recall, and it makes them feel good. And that good feeling, they want to feel that again. They want to feel that again. And so keep that in mind. That's going to help them not only for that moment, but that's going to help them in other classes, in well into the future. Well into the future. That's why that quote is so true. The influence you can't the influence of a teacher never. Well, you know what I'm trying to say. I just had a George W. moment. What is that quote? The influence of a good teacher can never be erased. I think that's what it is. But you know what I'm trying to say. I'm not even going to edit that out. I'm going to keep that in there. So number one, number one, see if you want to help students, guide students through the struggle, celebrate struggling, celebrate it. It's okay. So that's number one. Number two is, let's see here. Number two, oh yes, this. You need to be ready with the response. Be ready with the response. Whenever students struggle, it should never catch you off guard. You should never be surprised. Now I know that may sound, let's say, elementary. It may sound elementary, but I want you to make sure that you're checking your body language. You're checking, because you may on the inside be thinking, "Oh my gosh, why are you struggling with this? What did they do at the elementary school? What did they do at the middle school?" No, you've got to check that because you can't let those thoughts dictate your facial expression, your body language. You can't do that because that's going to put some bad vibes out in the room. That's going to let the students know that, hey, something's wrong with you guys because you're struggling with this and you shouldn't be struggling with that. I don't know if you knew this or not, but part of your job is also a therapist. You're a therapist. Okay? You're supposed to be able to bring calm. You're supposed to be able to understand the psychological needs of your students. Now, that's easier said than done, right? But at the very least, what I'm talking about is Your students need to be comfortable as they're experiencing a struggle. So I need you to be ready with an appropriate response. This is it may seem elementary, but I think it's important to meditate on this. It's important to think about this because I've talked to numerous teachers, within my career. I've been and even myself, I've been in situations where the message sent to a student is not the message that was received. And it could be very, very confusing for a teacher who just means well, but the student isn't getting that message. And so I want to encourage you to just check yourself and be mindful of how you respond when a student is struggling. My kids are watching. I should have shown you one. They're watching this YouTube channel where this guy is teaching kids how to draw different things. And when he draws, right next to him, he has maybe a 5, 6 year old, or maybe even younger than that. They're drawing right with him, and he's going through the steps. He's explaining, "Hey, I start with drawing a circle. Can you draw a circle on your paper?" All right, that's awesome. And now I'm going to draw two smaller circles for the eyes. So he draws, and his are perfect, right? Because this guy's an artist. And the kid, her circle looks like this. It's like it's those huge and squiggly lines. And then the eyes, the last one I watched with my kids was the eyes were like to the side, and it just, but he was ready. Like all of the imperfections that the child had on their paper, he was just he flowed with it perfectly. And it was so encouraging. He said, "This is awesome." He said, "Oh, it's okay for ours to be different. The most important thing is that we learn and have fun." That was the message throughout all of it. And ultimately, because the kids, they went through the whole process, they felt good about the fact that theirs looked different. They were getting practice. They were getting important practice to help them be better. And I tell you that to say, you know we need to, especially when students are struggling, we need to listen to them. It's so important to listen to them and the things that they say, because those thoughts tell you the what they say gives you an idea of what they're thinking. When a student says, "Oh, I've never been good at math," you know, or when I've heard this a lot, it's a social studies teacher, "Oh, I've never been good at social studies," or, "I'm not gonna need this stuff. I'm not gonna need this stuff when I graduate." And so there's my validation for why I'm gonna get a bad grade in this class. And those those things have to be responded to. You've got to respond to those things. You've got to be ready to respond to those things. Now, I'm not saying that you need to be ready with a perfect TED talk or anything like that. It definitely doesn't have to be anything like that. I mean, you've always got to be your authentic self, but you have to have a reaction, because when students, when they say those kinds of things, when they doubt themselves, when they already just give up the battle before it's even started, when they say, "Oh, I know I'm not going to do well at this," you've got to be ready to respond. You've got to have something, whether it be, I don't know, just maybe a YouTube video about motivation, whether it be maybe a word of the day. You've got to have something. Maybe it's a slogan that you adopt as a class. You've got to have something to snap students out of that negative thinking. When they put those negative words out there, those words are a reflection of what's going on up here. And for some students, that it's been that way for years. That learned behavior, it's just been that way. And you, as a teacher, as a leader, you have to lead them out of that. You have to lead them out of that. And so you have to be ready to respond. And and when it comes to your words, when you talk to students, when you try to help, when you're helping to guide them through a struggle, your words have to be filled with truth and hope. Truth and hope. Stick to that formula. Truth and hope. As an example, I want to share this with you. Check this out. So World War II, I'm going to go with a little history because I was a social studies teacher and I taught U.S. history. So World War II, it's 1944. 1944. For those of you who've seen Saving Private Ryan, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So the Nazis have taken over Europe, and it didn't look good for about 3 years. It didn't look good because the Nazis, they had a lot of victories in the war. And so 1944, June 1944, the good guys, they're planning to retake Europe from the Nazis. And the leader of this effort, his name is General Dwight Eisenhower. Okay, General Dwight Eisenhower. And this was very dangerous. For those of you who haven't seen Saving Private Ryan, this was very, very dangerous. The Nazis, the enemy, they knew the good guys were coming, so they had the high ground, and it was just it was seemingly impossible, an impossible battle to win. Okay. Spoiler, the good guys won. The good guys, they landed on this beach. The Nazis had the high ground, were shooting down upon them. And it was a very bloody battle. A lot of people died. And here's this letter that General Eisenhower writes to the troops. He says, "You are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you." Doesn't that sound nice? He goes on to say, "Your task will not be easy. Your enemy is well trained, well equipped, and battle hardened. He will fight savagely." What is he saying there? He's telling the truth. This is the truth. It's not going to be easy. But he goes on to say, "But this is the year 1944," because it's got an exclamation mark there. "Much has happened since the Nazi triumphs of 1940 to 1941. And he goes on to say, "Our home fronts have given us an overwhelming superiority in weapons and munitions of war and placed at our disposal great reserves of trained men." What does that sound like? That sounds like hope. "The tide has turned. The free men of the world are marching together to victory." You see how that works? Truth. Yeah, it appears that you're struggling a little bit. Okay, that's true. Hope. You can do this if you make these adjustments. If you make these adjustments, I believe you can do this. Just make sure, stick to that formula. Truth and hope with your response to a student who's struggling, because your goal is to eventually get them to look at, to initiate the problem solving process. Problem solving process. So your response is going to open them up to feedback so that they can start making adjustments. So you can start making adjustments. All right. So that's number two. So number one, you need to celebrate it when the student is experiencing a moment of struggle. And then number two, make sure that you're ready with an appropriate response to them struggling. Remember, truth and hope. And then before I get to number three, I want to share with you this. MarvinByrd.com is our website. MarvinByrd.com. If you like the message and you feel inclined to support the message like so many of you have done, and I appreciate it, check this out. There's a few ways you can support our message through going to marvinbyrd.com and up here, support the message. Whenever you do that, whenever you use this link here to shop at Amazon, we get a commission. We get a commission here, and that helps us to continue to support this message that teachers are leaders and equip teachers. So I appreciate those of you who have done or who are doing that, and I encourage the rest of you, please think about that. That is an easy way to support us. Whenever you do this, you have all rights and privileges to anything that Amazon is selling. Only difference is we get a commission. The other thing, love your skin, love your skin, love your skin, love your skin with some Rodan and Fields products. Rodan and Fields products right here. You can check those out. You can actually view the products, a number of different products to help rejuvenate your skin. That's another way you can support the message that teachers are leaders. And then also on this site, we also have, if you'd like to give a monetary gift, you can do that as well. You can do all of that, marvinbyrd.com, and then click right here, support the message. So once again, to those of you who are doing that, I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. It helps tremendously. And I encourage the rest of you, please, if you are getting value from what we're doing here, please think about supporting the message in one of those three ways. All right, so let's get back to this. I've given you two tips, and I want to give you a third one. When students are going through a struggle, I think it's important that you help them to put their thinking into words. That's it right there. That's the tip. You need to help them put their thinking into words. Help them put their thinking into words. Because when you know what they're thinking, then your feedback is accurate and effective when you know what they're thinking. Imagine this. Imagine if, imagine if a patient has a throbbing pain in their head and the doctor goes in and does surgery on their knee. Or if somebody is having pain in their foot and the doctor goes in and performs a heart transplant. That doesn't make sense, does it? And so it is with you and your students. Your challenge is to get students talking about what they're thinking. And then as a result, then you can really help them and equip them to initiate that problem solving. And really what we're talking about, because I would say this often to my students, is education isn't something that just happens to you. Education isn't something that just happens to you. You've got to participate. And that's why this the students putting their thinking into words is so important, because it empowers them to really be able to initiate that problem solving on their own, because they know what they're thinking. And as they go back through it, perhaps they'll see some of the errors on their own. And ultimately what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is we're talking about metacognition. And I'm just going to give it to you plainly here. I found a resource on metacognition. It's just the process of thinking about your own thinking and your own learning. It's really analyzing, taking the time to reflect, which is so important. Reflection is so important. Taking the time to reflect and analyze your own thoughts. Because ultimately, the purpose of education is to help one to change the way they think. You're supposed to help students change the way they think. And look at these questions are outstanding questions, and I will link to this in our newsletter. So if the newsletter, you can sign up for the newsletter at marvinbyrd.com. There'll be a sign up form on marvinbyrd.com, and you'll get all of the notes. I'll link to all the resources that I use in the podcast. So please go ahead and sign up at marvinbyrd.com, and sign up for the newsletter. So look at these questions. Look at this. Look at these prompts here. I am figuring out, what are the steps that I need to follow here? I'm wondering, what do I already know about this topic? Where did I get stuck when trying to solve this problem? It reminds me of, what is the assignment asking me to do? Imagine, ladies and gentlemen, imagine a classroom where all students are going through. I was about to do the trailer voice guy, in a world. I was about to do that. Then I said, don't need to do that. So imagine students learning how to go through this process on their own. Learning how to go through this process on their own. Now, it's something that you have to teach them. You have to teach them to do this. But when students are able to put their thinking into words, they're able to just really put it out there, then that's going to really help them, once again, kickstart that problem solving process. So once again, I'm going to share this with you. I'm gonna link it in the newsletter, and I'll also put it on my social sites. That's at Marvin Byrd on Twitter. And so I encourage you to check that out. So let me sum it up. Let me sum it up once again. So when we talk about guiding students through a struggle, number one, you need to celebrate it. Celebrate it when students are struggling. Number two, be ready to respond. Be ready with the response that fills students, that gives them the truth, but that also fills them with hope. And then lastly, number three, help students to put their thinking into words. And a great place to start is with this wonderful resource, which I've linked to, and then you'll find it in the newsletter. Sign up for the newsletter. This wonderful resource on metacognition, helping students to put their thinking into words, and bring their words to the forefront so that they can kickstart that problem solving process. That's our show for the day. I thank you so much for listening or watching. And please, I encourage you to support the effort. That's marvinbyrd.com, and click on the tab support the message. I thank you so much for your support. Really appreciate it. And until we meet again, don't forget that teachers are leaders.